As you have learnt in earlier modules, democracy is growing in the world. What we refer to here is the democratically elected government within a country. However, is it possible to have a world government as well? What would happen if there was one government that would make decisions on behalf of the entire population of the world? Would the people in such a scenario still have the basic political freedoms and elect their representatives? As a matter of fact, there is no such government, but there are many institutions in the world that perform the functions of such a government to some extent. These organizations cannot order the countries like the way a government does, but it can influence the government to take action that will promote peace in that region. The primary organization that plays this role is the United Nations. Why is the United Nations necessary? The United Nations, which is headquartered in New York, was formed after the Second World War in 1945 to maintain peace and security around the world. This organization was formed after there had been tremendous devastation due to the First and Second World Wars, which adversely impacted most countries in the world. The United Nations is a global association of nations of the world that cooperate with each other to maintain international law, security, economic development, and social equity. The United Nations makes laws and rules to govern the seas that do not fall within the boundaries of any single country. It takes steps to control environmental degradation by making conventions that are binding on member nations. Can the United Nations also help if one country attacks another unjustly? The UN Security Council, a division of the United Nations, is responsible for maintaining peace between countries. The point to remember here is that the United Nations cannot interfere in the internal political problems of a country. In other words, it can only facilitate peace between two countries with the help of volunteer troops from member countries. It can also take military action against the offenders. Another organization that is global in nature is the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. While the IMF can bail out countries from their international debts, the World Bank is responsible for giving loans for development projects around the world. However, there are certain conditions that come along. For example, the beneficiary government has to straighten its books of accounts and make some changes in its economic policies. Do you think such organizations and the decisions they make are democratic? Various international institutions that perform some of the functions of a world government make democratic decisions, usually by voting. So far, the resemblance to a normal democracy is visible. But does every member country have free and equal say in the decisions that affect them? Let's try and understand more with the help of examples of the different organs of the UN. The UN has 192 member countries, and each country gets one vote in the UN General Assembly. It meets regularly in yearly sessions under a Secretary General, who is elected from among the representatives of the member countries. So far, this organization appears very democratic. However, the General Assembly cannot make any decisions about what action should be taken in case of a conflict between two countries. Only the 15-member Security Council of the UN makes such crucial decisions. The US, Russia, the UK. The real power lies only with the 5 permanent members. These permanent members, only a permanent member has the power to veto. So here is the situation. If all the 14 members of the 15 decide on an action, in this scenario, would you say that? Let's move on to another international organization. The IMF has 185 member nations. However, again, just like the UN, its members do not have equal vote. Nearly 54% of the voting power rests in the hands of only 10 countries. The US, Japan, the UK. The remaining 175 countries have very little say in how the decisions are made in this organization.